Hello everyone and welcome to this new video. In this video we will be working on Boylei Hobby Time's monthly Patreon challenge. This month the theme was BookNooks, and since I had a One Piece Kuja Pirate ship laying around, I decided to use that for this build. So here we are working on painting the terrain I made. I did a lot of things off screen before I actually decided that I wanted to record this for YouTube or pick up YouTube again. So a few things are missing here and there, and throughout the video I do forget that I have to record stuff, so some things I do off screen. But here we are working on painting terrain with the base coat. Most of the acrylic paints, all of the acrylic paints here are McAdam paints. I don't know exactly what color it is, but it's kind of like a dusty, maybe a bit darker color. So we are working on the like the entrance and exit of the Kuja Pirates Island, the gate with the logo on it. Specifically, this is from episode 411, if I remember correctly, where Luffy and Boa leave the island again. I don't watch the anime, I just searched through the Kuja Pirates arc and found that episode with that certain frame that worked. So it's all based on that. So here we are doing the overall base coat. This lower part is going to be filled with a epoxy resin later on. And once the base coat was painted, I did do a rough dry brushing of, I think that's the dust paint from Adam. And then I went over it with the Tamiya brown panel line color, and then I just dabbed it off with a paper towel to create a bit of staining, to create more shading on the overall texture and overall bottom of the build. I think the rough scale for this is 1 to 1/44. I couldn't find an exact scale for the bows, but I just guesstimated that was it. So here we are doing a base coat painting on the frame of the door. This entire build, except from the still exposed XPS foam, is covered in a layer of plaster with a bit of Mod Podge and water. Works great. It did still cause me some trouble later on, but I'll get to that when we get there. So here we are just doing some generic craft store painting base coating for the frame, and then we are going over it with a bit of a dark grayish. I think it's RLM 66. I'm not quite sure, but I think it's an RLM color. Also from the McAdam paint line. It's a great line. If you can try it out, please do it. It's really wonderful. So yeah, we're doing a base coat of that, and I think then in the end we're going over with another lighter color that will cover it up more. So once that's done, we get started with the lighter coat animation. I don't know what kind of technique I was trying to apply here. I'm just kind of streaking, modeling it on to create like a shading, weathered effect of the rocks. It didn't really work well, and I think I went over it off screen again because it didn't look that great. But yeah, I'm just trying something here. I'm just kind of flicking the brush off of it and trying to create an effect with it. I don't think it worked out that well, but it's alright. It looked good in the end. So here we are gonna airbrush on the Kuja Pirates symbol, sigil, I don't know, if it's a logo, I don't know what you want to call it. But as you can see here, I just printed it on a piece of paper, cut it out, use it as a mask. But since the paper couldn't, like, it doesn't stick because it's just regular printed paper, but it doesn't like hold down that well, and I did use some tape underneath it, but still the edges lifted, so I created some overspray, and it just didn't look good. So off screen I did it again, cut the logo out of masking tape, and it again and looked much better. But again, I forgot to record the footage of that, or maybe I didn't, but you'll see it in the end eventually. Here I'm preparing for the epoxy resin pour. I'm using hot glue to glue down a piece of acrylic sheet to create a barrier so the resin doesn't leak out. I did not have any leaks in the end, which was great. The acrylic sheet was also sealed with some UV curing resin that I just put along the edges to prevent any leakage and just created a tight seal, which worked. There were some other troubles with the resin. For example, it got really hot, which I completely forgot about, which caused one big issue I'll show you later on. But it also caused the underside of this build, the styrofoam there, to melt, which wasn't that great. But overall, the pour went great, it looked great. I used some clear acrylic from Tamiya blue to give it a slight tint to the epoxy. A lot of people use an acrylic ink, but since the Tamiya paints are acrylic, or no, they use an alcoholic ink, but since the Tamiya paints are an alcoholic based acrylic, I use that for tinting the resin. So here I'm just trying to get off the masking tape I used to mount the acrylic sheet against the base, and once that's off, I'll show you the issue that I had. So I knew but didn't stood still at the fact that epoxy gets really hot when it cures, and plastic melts. So the underside of this boat, those pieces, you just click it into the frame, and I didn't glue it down. I forgot about that, and then it just melted and fell out, and it drooped down and was just laying there on the bottom, which is a shame. This is the only major thing that went wrong in this build, but this entire thing has been a major learning lesson for me, so I'm fine with it. I think in the end it still looks cool, besides that one issue I had, but other than that it's fine. Here I'm trying to fix the second issue I had with the epoxy pour. So apparently the resin shrinks, I think, or something else happened, I don't know what, but it pulled the plaster off the XPS foam, creating this crack along the lines here, along the line where the water meets the rocks. I think it's due to shrinkage of the epoxy. I'm not quite sure. If you know why it is, just let me know in the comments. I just think it's that. I think most of the issues I had could be prevented if I just coated the whole thing in a thin coat of UV curing resin before doing the big pour. I think that would also have helped with the melting of the ship, besides the part that I just needed to glue it to begin with, but that might have helped. And I think that also would have prevented this. Still again, I'm not sure, we'll see next time I do something like this. So here I'm using some Tamiya white putty to fill it up, and then I painted it again. And then here I'm trying to create a foamy water Ripley effect with just Mod Podge depth on the surface of the resin, and then with the airbrush you just blow it into the direction the water was flowing around the ship when it's sailing through it. So I did that, and it ended up looking pretty good. This is a great technique if you don't have any like AK water material stuff they sell, which looks great. I might need to get it, but this works as well. It dries clear, so you can decide, do I want to leave it clear and just as is, or do I want to go over it and give it a little paint. On the outside of the gate, the Kuja Pirates have these watchtowers that are replicated with a 3D printer. I just modeled something really quickly, nothing too special, and then printed it on a FDM printer, not resin, so it's alright, it looks fine from a distance. And then here to seal some of the layer lines, I used mr.hobby 500 server, so just did a coat of that. And here, what I said, I used white paint from Adam and dry brushed that on, which works really well. There are different techniques to this depending on the material you're using to create these waves, but I think this works really well. And I'm just overall happy with the result. I think it's really nice. Definitely recommend this if you don't have much stuff to go with. And here I'm just painting the little watchtowers. I think they turn out great. They're nice and cute. They convey the message. There's nothing detailed much. I wouldn't want to print too much detail on a FDM printer. I mean, it's 0.12 layer height, which is not great, but it's what you can do. And then here I am painting the sides with black 3.0. I used cardboard to cover the sides and the front, but you probably want to use one like wooden veneer or just anything else, because this kind of starts curving and warping due to the water-based paint, I think, when it dries. So probably want to go with veneer or plastic, but not cardboard. And here I'm just using some super glue to put down the house. As you can see, I also I put down some static grass, which looks really nice. And on the back side of the gate, you can see the little spheres that I have there. That's just UV cured resin. Put a bit down, cure it, and I use that and put it on there and paint it. And after painting the last thing as a black, I think just like Boylei, we can call it good. As you can see, a great result. I'm fairly happy with my first time overall using any form of resin, and I think it turned out great. Let me know what you think. See you next time. Like, subscribe, and until then.